excited to be able to talk to Peter today. Peter, welcome.
So good to be here. So good.
So you are the CEO and founder of Leaderboard Exchange, and I want to talk about that. But I think I first want to talk about Peter and your story and where you are, why you are where you are today.
Okay. Wow. I'll give you the short version, but I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur. I built a career mostly in marketing consultation, then moved into marketing research, and then identified a hole in the market for a search firm that focused and specialized in marketing placements. And, that is where I've spent the last 15 years is building a company that got in and served a market and tried to serve it really, really well.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So Leaderboard Exchange is a new enterprise for you. Can you talk about its sort of origin story? How did it come about?
Well, I'm excited the way it came about, and of course, COVID played a role in that. And we were, as a group, with my previous company, looking at creative ways to grow the market, and decided that we were going to launch an executive search firm as part of our offering. And then we just the way things happened. Long story short, COVID happened. Partnerships were not probable at that point, which meant I sold off a portion of the business and went with the blessing of the rest of the team to start a specialized executive search focused firm. And then we later decided, we'd worked with so many great companies over the time that, and many of them were credit unions. Huh. And each credit union experience that we had really reinforced, kind of our fandom within the industry. So when the concept of, hey, what if we just went in and specialized on executive and leadership search for credit unions came up, it was an easy let's jump in with both feet. So, it's an industry that we feel super confident in. It's an industry that we feel great about serving. Credit unions are making contributions at a community level, and thereby we get to help make contributions within those communities by helping introduce leaders who are going to help those credit unions serve their people better.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So when you think about Leaderboard Exchange, what is the void? There are other search firms out there. What is the void you're filling? How do you kind of do it differently?
How do we do it differently? So, we've always operated with the understanding that, and it became really clear to us over the last 15 years that people are the plan, that you can have the best strategy, but if you don't have the right team there to drive and execute it, then, it doesn't have to, there's not necessarily a right team, but a committed team, then things can really happen. And, especially in settings like within a credit union, which is so people-centric, you're dealing with the most intimate area of people's lives. You want to have some great people on the inside helping build relationships with those people, which is why we've led with the who is greater than how, kind of along the lines of culture eats strategy for breakfast. So, we specialize in leadership searches. We're really good at doing board-driven searches, getting those boards in, getting them aligned, moving them forward. And we've developed a process that's really quick, that helps, cut out the clutter and helps us get in, zero in on who it is that is needed to fulfill a role and to deliver that.
So is that a bit of the secret sauce?
Yeah. Our process is definitely the secret sauce, and it's not rocket science, but it does require commitment and focus.
Yeah, and if I was to talk to someone who had been a candidate for you in a search, what would they say about how they felt about that process?
We have one thing that we use to measure our relationships with candidates, and we view every candidate relationship as long-term. Yeah. Because ultimately at the end of the day, with each search, one person's going to get the role, and then you've got people who really wanted it who didn't necessarily get it. So we always try to communicate proactively with people, keep them informed of where they're at in the search, search, the one key metric that we use to measure those relationships is respect. Did you feel respected by our process? And I think that that's what you would hear from the different candidates that we've worked with. And it's really quite as simple as we call them back, we call them before they expect to hear from us.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. We may have covered this, but there's the differentiation, how you do it differently because of the process, and I think the care of candidates, right? No, that's very
the care of candidates, and I think our realization that people are really what make organizations sing. So,
okay, that's great. Board-driven searches. How are those different?
Oh, they're really different. Whenever you get a group of people into a room that are going to be responsible for making a decision together, then that presents challenges.
Yeah.
And nobody has an opinion necessarily at the beginning while you're formulating things, but everybody has an opinion right when you're about to extend an offer or make a hire. So one of the key areas that we focus on is alignment, getting everybody aligned, bringing them in. We have a process that works the board through a series of ranking exercises so we can zero in on the competencies that we're looking for in people, and those competencies drive the search, so we can always refer back to them with the board and remind them that this is who that we were looking for.
So are those the sort of the key factors in a search that really excels a search?
Yeah, I think, we talk about that it's, and this is Abraham Lincoln, so I won't take credit for it, but if we're going to chop down, we've got 6 hours to chop down a tree, we're going to take 5 hours to sharpen our axe. So getting the team and the board aligned is really the most critical step in a search. And then we can take that and we can make magic happen with being able to articulate that with the tools that we use. We're quite well respected for the tools that we put together, and because we've got the clarity that we need.
Yeah. So if I'm a board member watching right now, what 2 tips, what would be the advice you'd give to them in a search process for what they need to do?
2 things that I would say. Number one is let's get your team aligned. Let's get your board aligned. Let's get everybody clear on who it is that we're looking for. And let's get a commitment to that. Because the second thing that I would emphasize is if you don't do that, then what ends up happening is that we move towards a safe decision, a safe hire versus the hire that's really needed. So if you can't push yourselves towards the hire that you really want or you really feel is needed at that time, and you haven't done the work up front, then quite often it ends up to who's the least offensive or who's the one that's not, that provides the least amount of risk to hire.
Often I think boards are thinking of the perfect CEO, the perfect candidate.
Right.
And what's your advice do boards need to move from perfection sometimes? Can you find an absolute perfect candidate in every case?
I think so many times, and this actually leads to, one of the biggest hiring mistakes that people make is hiring on first impressions.
Yeah.
Right. And quite often they're specifically in CEO searches, they're looking for, this person to catapult in and come in and save the day. And quite often it will be connected to impression or first impressions of that individual. But our process really focuses on let's dig deep. Let's find out what these people have done. Where have they contributed? If they've contributed in an industry that isn't necessarily the industry that you're in, where are those transferable pieces that can be drawn in to make them more equipped for the role. And I think, everybody always talks about, looking for that unicorn or that individual that brings it all to the table.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you do your ranking, what the non-negotiables are and where you could step outside a little bit. And we work with boards on that too. Yeah.
Talking about, pulling someone, it seems to be sometimes it's easy to go for the people that are already in the industry. What are the advantages of pulling someone in who, may have the hard skills, but doesn't have the industry experience? What do they bring to an organization?
So many skills are transferable between industries. And I think it's, what they've seen is a whole other industry. So they've had the opportunity to look and see the inside of another organization operating under a different set of game rules. And sometimes that can provide tremendous insight for where they're headed, so they can bring something new to the mix, something different. We've seen CEOs from organizations like, or leaders from organizations like Starbucks come in and take the reins of credit unions and have a success doing that, because there's a lot of transferable things in how Starbucks wants its customers to feel, and how a credit union wants their members to feel.
No, and do you have any position on what, is it really up to the organization and the hiring committee of the board when they think about the tenure of a CEO? Should they be thinking shorter term, longer term, or is that really dependent on where the organization is at?
I think that's part of what comes up in the ranking exercise, and I think traditionally people have thought who's going to take us for the long term, and now I think more and more organizations are experiencing the benefit of having someone for a chapter or someone for a period who can come in and offer what they have to offer for a time period, and then turn the reins over to someone else.
Yeah. So. Well, no, this is great. I've learned a lot. I mean, I've given you all the hard questions. Now I have the harder questions. So I have some questions, and they're really golden, and so we keep them in a vault.
I'm ready, Lawrie.
And I have them right here.
Vault me.
This is my vault, and I'm just going to put in the complicated code right now. And it's going to open. Ooh. So let's just see what we have for you in our fun question segment. If you could choose one song to walk into for the rest of your life, what would it be?
U2's "Beautiful Day." I think that song. That's like when I need a little bit of inspiration, I'll pump that song in either my headphones or in my car.
That is a great song.
I love that song, and there's an extended version that I could listen to it for hours.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great answer. So this one, you put on your thinking cap. Would you rather wrestle one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
I'll take the giant duck. I'll take the giant duck. I think 100 just seems a lot to manage. But I could focus. I could put a strategy together to take that duck out.
Okay. Yeah. I'll go with that answer. Yeah. That was awesome. It was great speaking with you today. Thank you.
You too. Thanks.